Hi, my name is Matthew Bellisario. Welcome to another edition of the Bellisario Sonic YouTube channel. Today I wanted to make a video and discuss the state of rock music right now in 2021. There's a lot of people that say that rock music's dead. There hasn't been anything really new happening in rock music for quite some time. And basically it's been left behind, and pop music is pretty much taken over and is going to be the future. Electronic music is going to be the future of things, and that rock music is just finished. And so I wanted to talk about that today and kind of give my thoughts on where I think the state of rock music is today. And of course, it's my personal opinion, but I'm going to share with you some of the bands that I think are still relevant in rock music. And I'm probably using the term category of rock music maybe a little more broadly than some people would. I'm not going to be just stuck into an AC/DC type rock music, but it will be in the rock genre of what I'm going to talk about. And of course, a lot of this is subjective as to how you categorize music. But I think the important question to ask is, where are we with rock music? We're not hearing very much rock music on the radio, and partially that's, I think, due to just the popularity of electronic music and the direction that the record companies are taking us, and also just the way that the younger people are listening to music now, and the electronic environment that they're in. That a lot of this techno and the environment they're in is electronic, and so I think that the having the sound of real instruments and guitars and drums, real drums, the sound of real instruments is more foreign to a lot of the younger people, and I'm finding that myself and the people that I talk to, the kind of music they listen to, that are younger, the younger generation that are in their 20s. And so that, we have to question what is the state of rock music if the younger generation is not listening to rock music at all? Is rock music going to die? Now, my immediate answer is no, it's not going to die, and that there are still some good rock bands out there, and there's still some bands out there that are being creative and creating new rock music. But I will say that it's not as prominent as it once was, back in the 70s, even the 80s, the 90s. Grunge took over, 2000s. But I think with the 2000s, you really started to see a decline of rock music, and you really haven't seen a resurgence of it in the last 20, 25 years. It's just slowly falling by the wayside, at least in popularity. But it's still there. And so some of the bands I'm going to talk about today, I think, are still keeping that tradition alive, and they're still putting out good records, and that they're still giving us new sounds and writing new music within that rock genre, and they are doing different things, and or if they are sticking to an older type of rock and roll formula, that they're being pretty creative about it, and they're kind of giving it a new sound. So let me just point out a couple of my favorite bands right now that I think are still relevant and are still putting out good albums. And I think one of them is Marillion. And this is just one of the albums that they released where they had an orchestra, and they were redoing a lot of their songs with an orchestra. But in general, when I talk about Marillion, they're putting out new albums, and they're a fresh new sound, and it's a rock band, and you may call it progressive rock or whatever, but they're to me, they're a very relevant band. And are they getting a ton of airplay? No, but are they keeping the rock genre alive, and are they doing fresh new things? My answer would be yes. So I think you can go back, if you're a rock person who likes rock music and hasn't experienced Marillion, I would encourage you to go and start picking up some of their records and listening to them. I have several of them on vinyl and on CD. And I enjoy them all the way through the years, all the way going back into the 80s and all the way up until now. But my point is, they're still making relevant rock music right now in the present. And I think this year they're supposed to be coming out with a new album, hopefully. So that's one of the bands that I think is still relevant. I'm going to point out an album that of a guy that's been playing rock music or some form of popular rock music for almost 60 years, and that's Bob Dylan. And so he's still relevant in this genre. I mean, you might not put it in hard rock, obviously, but I would still consider it in that rock genre. And this would be Rough and Rowdy Ways. And if you go to any store, it's going to be in the rock pop area, right? So, but it does kind of fall into that structure. It's not heavy guitars and all that kind of stuff, but I'd still consider it kind of that bluesy rock music, just not quite on the heavy side. But I would say that Bob Dylan is still relevant in the rock genre, if you will, if you would allow me that little bit of latitude there. Now, there's a couple of new bands that, I'd say within the last 10 years that are in that bluesy rock vein, and one of them is the Smoke Fairies. And I really dig this album. It just came out, I think, maybe a year ago, a little over a year ago, maybe 2019. And I really like these two. And it's kind of almost a bluesy rock feel to it. And just to me, great songwriting, a unique sound, great vocals, and I think that this is a band that I would consider to be keeping the rock music alive. Again, this is the latest Smoke Fairies album, so you can check it out and go listen to it and see what you think. But again, I think this is a band that's kind of keeping that bluesy rock feel alive, and they're relevant right now, writing good music. So that's another one. Going on the heavier side of things, this might be, would probably be considered more of metal, and I'm not really going to step too much into metal today with this video, but just this album came across, I was listening to it the other day, and this is Delaine's latest album, and I think this is a pretty cool record. And I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the heavy metal stuff, but I think that this band here is pretty creative in their songwriting. I like the vocals and the way, just how they're composing their songs. And so I think this is a band, and I should probably do a video on more heavier music, kind of like heavy metal type stuff, and talk about that, the state of heavy metal. That's also another interesting topic to address. Is metal dead? And again, I would say no. But this is on the heavier side of rock music, and you may even say it's metal, but this is a band I think that is relevant right now. That's keeping the heavier rock side alive and are doing new things and writing creative music. And so there's another one for you. This album I'm getting ready to show you, it was a surprise for me this year, and this was the new Kansas record, which I would say is more of a progressive rock record, but again, still rock. And this new album here is called The Absence of Presence, and this is a really good record. And this is just released in 2020. Nice 5.1 mix as well, and this is a great record. And it's fresh, and it doesn't sound dated, I don't think. And I think it's another testament to some bands that can actually, classic bands, if you will, that can actually come out with something relevant still today. And there's not very many of them, okay? And that's why all of these classic reissues are so popular, right? Because most of these bands, let's face it, they can't come up with new material. These guys have. You go look at the latest Rolling Stone stuff, same recycled stuff. You look at AC/DC, same recycled stuff. Sorry, if you're an AC/DC fan, no offense, but not that great of music. To me, it's the same recycled stuff. I can only listen to it so many times over again. And so what I like about these guys is they're able to stretch out and do something a little bit different and come up with some nice, new songs that don't sound the same as the same old stuff. And so for those bands that have a long legacy like the Rolling Stones, they're pretty much stuck in the formula that they have, and they are not going to deviate from it, and they haven't. Um, Same thing with like Aerosmith and those bands like that. They're pretty much stuck in that formula that they have. And granted, it works for them. They still sell records. They still are able to go out and tour, and so good for them. But to me, they're not really keeping the rock genre alive. Really, I mean, they're still living off their legacy rather than creating new things and stepping out and trying to do new things in their songwriting. Now, one of my favorite artists right now is the former lead guitar player of Genesis, Steve Hackett, but of course he's been on his own now for a long time, and all of his solo records I really enjoy. But just to show two of his records, and I would say these are more in the progressive rock side of things, but these are really great records. The Night Siren, and this was done in 2017, so recent record, and this one called Wolflight, and this was done in 2015. So just two examples. Any of his stuff I like. But he will switch genres. So his latest record that just came out is all acoustic and Mediterranean sounding. But these two particular albums are rock albums, progressive rock albums. And they have a lot of different textures and instruments to them. And to me, this is the kind of stuff that's keeping rock music alive. Now, is it getting played on the radio? No, but no rock music's getting played on the radio. But this stuff here, to me, is still keeping the tradition of rock music alive and stepping out and doing new things and being creative in the songwriting. And Steve Hackett is one of my favorites that's still relevant today, releasing rock music. So there's another example for you. Another guy that I really like is Fish, the former lead singer of Marillion. Of course, he's been on his own now for a very long time, and all of his solo work merits just as much recognition as the 4 albums he did with Marillion. This is his latest one. He just released it. Fantastic record. And if you go back through the years and listen to his solo stuff, excellent rock music, and that's exactly where I would put it. It's a little more on the progressive side, but I wouldn't call it all progressive music, because he can write a good 3 or 4 5-minute song that's more in the rock structure, verse chorus, solo, verse chorus type thing. So this right here record to me is what gives me hope for rock music in the future, because here's a guy that's just put a fantastic record out. And all these songs are really well written. The lyrics, of course, he's known for his great lyrics, and but the instrumentation and the way that it's mixed, it's done in a very new way, I think, and done very well done. And so, again, I think that this is the kind of music that's going to keep rock music alive. So go check this one out. It's kind of hard to find, but it's a fantastic record. So there's another one. Now, even though he's kind of changed direction on his last album, I would say any of Steven Wilson's records is another example of why rock music is not going to die. Now, some people might put him, he's definitely done a lot of different things and changed direction several times in his career. I'm sure he's going to continue to do that. His latest record's more of a pop electronic sounding album, and I think it's a great record. But if you go back and just listen to this, which was his live album that was released just 2 years ago, fantastic, and it covers his legacy here. But this to me shows why rock music is still relevant and it's not dying, is because artists like him are still keeping it alive. They're keeping it fresh in the rock genre. And so I would recommend almost all his stuff, because it's just good songwriting. It's in the rock genre, but it's fresh and it's new, and he takes things in new directions. So another reason why I don't think rock music is dead. Now, Steven himself, I think he thinks that in his interviews that I've watched, he seems to think that rock music's kind of dead, but I don't know if he realizes the impact he's had on rock music himself. And even though, again, like he's taken a new direction here on this latest album that just came out, if you look at all the prior records for the last decade, they're all in the rock genre. They may be a little more pop in some of them, but they are all, I would all consider them in the rock genre, and I would consider them taking it in a new direction. So, Steven Wilson, who knows what he's going to do in the future? I would guess, and of course I have no way of knowing this, but just hearing in his interviews, I would think he's not done on the rock side of things. I think that he's still probably going to go back and maybe do something else, and I hope he does. I look forward to it, that he might take rock music and try to reshape it a little bit and put his own stamp on it. Last record and last band I want to talk about is this, and I did a whole video on this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but it's this Transatlantic record. And yes, it's a prog record, prog progressive rock, but this is what gives me hope for the future of rock music in general, because this opens up a whole new doorway, I think, to what these bands can be doing as far as how they're going to release their music, what type of production, the whole 5.1 experience, which still, in my opinion, hasn't been fully realized. It hasn't been taken advantage of by enough artists or even the record companies that are just neglecting it. And really the only time you see the 5.1 come out on the major record label is when they go back and they take a classic rock record and they remix it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy those records, the Jethro Tull stuff that Steven did, and some of these other 5.1 remixes. I like that. The Rush remixes on 5.1. However, it's really disconcerting to me that bands, and Steven Wilson's done this with this new album. He did it in 5.1, and to me, that really makes the album really what it is, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying it's not worth listening to in stereo, but I am saying that the 5.1 really makes the record shine and really gives it the ambiance, I think, that serves it the best. In other words, it's the best form, I think, that this new record, Steven Wilson record, is the 5.1. And I also think that's the case with this Transatlantic. And I listen to it in my car in stereo, and I still really enjoy the record, but I love the 5.1 mix. And so I think that has yet to be fully realized, to have take advantage of this 5.1. But this Transatlantic album, great songwriting, great production, great presentation, 5.1 visualization, great stereo mixes, 2 different versions. And so I think that rock music is not dead. And even though it's going to, you might call this progressive rock, that's fine. But I think we have a lot of hope in the future for what just rock music in general is going to be, and what we're going to see with different artists in the future. And so I don't think by any stretch of the imagination that rock music is done. Now, I've again stretched the genre of rock music quite a bit here, just in these few artists here that people might say, oh, well, that's not exactly rock music, or that's whatever. But again, as far as that, the guitar-driven, bluesy sound or progressive sound, the actual rock, what we could call just rock music in general, I don't think is dead by any stretch of the imagination. And I think that there's quite a few bands out there that are going to be taking us into the future with some very interesting music. So that's my assessment. As far as a lot of the legacy bands like the Rolling Stones, AC/DC, Aerosmith, I don't have any hope that those particular bands are going to be the future of rock music. I think that they're done as far as just pushing the envelope of what rock music is going to be. I don't think any of those bands are going to be doing that. I could be wrong, but I just don't see any of those bands making a huge change or trying to push the envelope anywhere to where they're going to try something new. So that's what I have for this particular video, and we'll see you on the next one.